Banksy. Just the name brings up so much, right? Iconic images, those sharp political comments, and, well, the big one.
Hmm.
Who is this person?
Exactly. An England-based artist, activist, director, active since the 90s, but totally pseudonymous.
And the work itself. That satirical street art, the stencils, the dark humor, you see it everywhere, commenting on society, walls, bridges, all over the globe.
Yeah, from Bristol to, well, Bethlehem even.
So you're listening because you want to get past the headlines, get a real understanding, fast but thorough.
And that's what we're doing here, this deep dive. We're pulling out the key stuff from our sources on Banksy's work, the impact, the whole story.
Let's start at the beginning then. Where did Banksy even come from?
Well, you have to look at the Bristol underground scene back then, late 20th century. It was a real melting pot.
Uh,
Artists, musicians, everyone sort of collaborating, bouncing ideas
A
around.
collaborative spirit, yeah.
Makes sense. It's a pretty key to understanding those early influences.
And didn't 3D for Massive Attack play a role? He was a graffiti artist too, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Big influence. 3D was huge in graffiti circles, and obviously with Massive Attack. Shows that crossover between art and music right there.
Okay, so Banksy's early days, 90s up to maybe 2001.
Yeah, initially he wasn't doing stencils. It was more traditional freehand graffiti.
Really?
Part of the Dry Bread Z crew, DBZ they called it. Worked alongside artists like Kato and Tess.
And other Bristol names were around then too, right? Like
Yeah.
Nick Walker.
Exactly. Nick Walker, Inky. They were all part of that same local scene. Clearly influences flowing back and forth.
Okay, so the stencils, that's the Banksy everyone knows.
Yeah.
When did that shift happen?
Around 2000, give or take. It seems like a really deliberate move.
Why stencils, though?
Speed, mostly. Efficiency. There's that story. Maybe apocryphal, maybe not.
The one under the bin lorry?
Yeah. Hiding from the police, sees the stenciled serial number on the lorry, and boom, light bulb moment.
A way to get the image up fast and, crucially, get away fast.
Yeah.
And
Precisely.
yeah.
And you definitely see a change after that. Recognition starts picking up, first in Bristol, then London follows pretty quickly. The stencils were just faster, more reproducible.
Okay, here's a curveball. I read somewhere Banksy was a goalkeeper.
Huh, how did that? Yeah, for the Easton Cowboys and Cowgirls, a local Bristol team back in the 90s.
No way.
Yes. And get this, they even toured Mexico in 2001.
Wow. Makes you wonder how experiences like that feed into the art later on, seeing different parts of the world.
It definitely adds another layer to the story, doesn't it? A non-art layer.
So talk about early major works. What stands out?
Well, you've got to mention the Mild West, that huge mural in Bristol from 97.
The teddy bear one.
That's the one. A
Yeah.
teddy bear, cute, cuddly, lobbing a Molotov cocktail at riot police.
That juxtaposition, innocence and violence. Classic Banksy, even early on.
Totally encapsulates that early style, that punchy, anti-establishment vibe.
And the themes were already there, right?
Yeah.
Anti-war, anti-capitalism.
Oh, yeah. Very consistent. You see it in the subjects he chose for the stencils. Rats, apes, lots of police, soldiers, but then often put next to children or elderly people. That contrast creates the commentary.
Which brings us, inevitably, to the big mystery. The identity.
The million-dollar question, or maybe multi-million-dollar now, it's been speculation central for decades. It's almost part of the brand now, isn't it?
It really is. Part of the performance. We've had clues, descriptions,
Yeah.
like that Guardian interview back in '03.
Right, the description. White, 28, scruffy casual jeans, t-shirt, a silver tooth, silver chain, and silver earring. Very specific yet vague.
Cross between Jimmy Nail and Mike Skinner of the streets. Brilliant. Still no name, though,
And then there was that ITV news piece around the same time and a BBC interview that popped up later.
where he said his first name was Robbie.
Exactly, just little breadcrumbs to keep the speculation going.
But then the Mail on Sunday piece in 2008 felt different. More direct.
Yeah, that was the big one, naming Robin Gunningham, born 74, near Bristol. They claim they had sources, former schoolmates.
It seemed plausible. Corroborated, they said.
It did. And then years later, in 2016, that geographic profiling study came out.
From Queen Mary University, linking the artwork locations.
Uh-huh. They analyzed the spots where Banksy pieces appeared and found correlations with places linked to Gunningham's movements. Schools, pubs, homes.
That adds some weight, you have to admit.
It certainly does. And the Sunday Times reported Gunningham used the name Robin Banks.
Robin Banks. Banksy. It's almost too neat.
Right. Plus, someone found old cassette sleeves from '93 with Banksy art and Gunningham's signature on them.
Okay, that's pretty specific
It
evidence.
seems quite compelling. Then you have DJ Goldie on that podcast in 2017.
Just casually dropping Rob.
Yeah, seemed like a slip of the tongue. Great artist, Rob. Oops.
But then you get the wilder theories, like Neil Buchanan from Art Attack.
Oh, God, yeah, that Twitter storm in 2020. His publicist had to come out and deny it. Hilarious.
And the Bristol counselor, Billy Gannon? That was crazy. He had to resign.
Because the speculation just wouldn't stop. He made a good point, though. How do you prove you aren't someone who technically doesn't exist?
Shows the level of obsession, really. And there was that internet hoax in 2014 saying he'd been arrested and unmasked. People want to know.
But as the Guardian piece pointed out way back, there's a very practical reason for the anonymity.
It's illegal. Graffiti is vandalism in the eyes of the law.
Exactly. Staying anonymous is self-preservation. It also means, the art speaks for itself without the baggage of who the artist is.
Okay, let's pivot to some key moments. Exhibitions, specific pieces. That first LA show, Existentialism, 2002.
Yeah, tiny gallery, 3313. But it was important. Showcased early versions of stuff that became iconic.
Like Smiley Copper H, Bomb Hugger, Love is in the Air.
Those ones. It showed ambition, looking beyond the UK street scene.
Then Turf War in London, 2003. The one with the painted animals.
They caused a stir, painting on live cows and sheep.
Did he get in trouble for that?
Well, the RSPCA checked it out and said the conditions were okay, but animal rights groups were definitely protesting. It showed he wasn't afraid of controversy.
Definitely pushed boundaries. And around then, he started doing those subverted paintings too, right? Messing with famous artworks.
Oh, yeah. Like taking Monet's water lilies and adding shopping trolleys and traffic cones.
Or Hopper's Nighthawk's diner scene, but with a football hooligan throwing a chair through the window.
Brilliant stuff. Exhibited in 2005, it forces you to look at those classics differently, connecting them to, well, now.
It's a really smart tactic, using something familiar to make a new point.
Absolutely. Appropriating cultural touchstones.
Speaking of audacious moves, the fake 10-pound notes.
2004.
The die-faced tenor. Princess Diana instead of the Queen. Banksy of England.
And he just handed them out. At Notting Hill Carnival. Reading Festival.
Yep. Apparently some people even tried spending them. And then they started popping up on eBay, of course.
Which is ironic in itself. But also, legally dodgy, reproducing banknotes like that. Totally. It was a perfect Banksy move, poking fun at the monarchy, consumerism, taking the legal risk, building the outlaw myth.
Also 2004, that napalm screen print. Can't beat that feeling. That's a tough one.
It really is. Takes that horrific Vietnam War photo, the girl, Kim Fresh, and puts Ronald McDonald and Mickey Mouse holding her hands.
Ark. It's incredibly jarring. Makes you think about war, consumerism, the whole machine.
Deeply unsettling. And he released signed and unsigned versions, reaching different parts of the market, I suppose.
Then in 2005, he went to the Palestinian territories, painted right on the West Bank wall.
Yeah, 9 images. A very direct political statement, using the wall itself as the canvas, brought global attention to the situation in a very visual way.
That was a shift, maybe, from general commentary to specific conflicts.
I think so. A very direct engagement with a complex, ongoing political reality.
Okay, 2006. Barely legal show in LA. The Elephant in the Room.
Literally. A live elephant painted pink and gold, symbolizing global poverty. Caused a huge fuss, obviously.
They had to wash it off, didn't they?
Yeah, animal welfare concerns. But the stunt worked. Generated massive media coverage. The show also had that Queen Victoria lesbian piece, riffs on Warhol, Da Vinci.
Classic Banksy, challenging everything.
Oh.
But not everyone was impressed, right? Some people just saw vandalism.
Definitely. Peter Gibson from Keep Britain Tidy called it vandalism, highlights that ongoing debate. Is street art legitimate art or just crime?
That LA show really ramped things up, though. Big names, big controversy.
It solidified his ability to create these large-scale spectacles and put high-end collectors right next to edgy street art. Uneasy bedfellows, maybe?
And that's when the Banksy effect really kicked in. High-profile buyers, auction prices going nuts.
Exactly. Christina Aguilera buying pieces, those Kate Moss paintings selling for record amounts in 2006. The mainstream art world suddenly decided this formerly illegal stuff was valuable.
Which must have been weird for him, given his anti-capitalist stance.
A total paradox. Operating outside the system, then becoming a hot commodity within it. That tension is always there with Banksy.
He even commented on it directly, didn't he? When Bombing Middle England sold for loads in 2007.
Over 100,000 pounds. And then he puts that image on his website. An auction room, people bidding, and the artwork says, "I can't believe you morons actually buy this shit."
So blunt. But it makes the point.
It's classic Banksy self-critique, questioning the market, his role in it, undermining the very value people are paying.
Also 2007, Transport for London painted over the Pulp Fiction piece. The one of the bananas instead of guns.
Yeah, that caused uproar. But then he did that tribute piece to Ozone, another graffiti writer who died, showed respect for the community, but also highlighted the tension with authorities.
And the prices just kept climbing. Space Girl and Bird for nearly £300,000.
Right, and he won that Art's Greatest Living Britain award.
Which he turned down, obviously.
Of course, and then his drinker sculpture got stolen. Just added to the whole mythology.
Every event just seemed to build the legend.
Exactly. The sales, the refusals, the thefts solidified him as this unique figure, both celebrated and rebellious.
Even the stuff on his website, the quotes he used, changed over time. Little
Right.
hints about his thinking.
Yeah, the manifestos, the quotes, added more layers beyond just the images.
And it's wild that he's never had gallery representation, right? Still isn't represented by anyone officially, besides pest control.
Remarkable. He even slammed that unauthorized New York show in 2007. Wants control over how his work is seen and sold.
Rejects the gatekeepers.
Pretty much.
2008 seemed busy too. New Orleans after Katrina, that KKK piece in Alabama.
Really powerful works responding to specific events and histories. And then the Village Pet Store exhibition in New York.
With the animatronic pets, chicken nuggets dipping themselves in sauce.
Yeah. Darkly funny, critiquing our relationship with animals, consumerism, artificiality. Very effective.
But works were still getting destroyed. One nation under CCTV in Westminster got painted over. The Little Diver in Melbourne.
Yep. And Blec the French stencil pioneer, was still publicly criticizing Banksy for, copying his style.
Right, that debate about influence versus copying. It's always there in street art.
Definitely. Blec influence is clear, but Banksy took it somewhere else.
Though Banksy did seem to acknowledge the community with the Cannes Festival in London that year.
Yeah, invited loads of other stencil artists. A way to showcase the diversity of the form, maybe place himself within that wider movement.
Then 2009, he split with his agent, Steve Lazarides.
Big move. Announced pest control as the only official source for buying his work. Tightening control over the market, authentication.
And that massive show at the Bristol Museum.
Banksy versus Bristol Museum. Huge. Over 100 works, loads of new stuff, massive crowds. Really blurred the lines between street art and the museum world.
There was also that royal family mural getting partly wrecked.
Yeah.
The climate change pieces. And the feud with King Robbo.
Yeah, that back and forth graffiti battle was quite something. Kept him in the news, engaging with issues, even through rivalry.
Then the movie, Exit Through the Gift Shop. 2010, Sundance premiere, Oscar nomination.
That film was a whole other level of messing with people's heads. Questions about who made it. Was Mr. Brainwash real? Classic Banksy ambiguity.
And he did street pieces in Utah for Sundance, right?
Yeah.
Blurring film and reality again.
Yep. Added another layer to the enigma. Authenticity, commodification, the art world. It tackled it all.
And his influence just kept spreading. A pub sold with his rat on it, the Forgive Us Our Trespassing piece at London Bridge. Shepard Fairey praising him in Time magazine.
Just shows how far his reach had extended by then.
Then pieces started appearing internationally more. San Francisco, Toronto, and Detroit. That was controversial.
Oh, yeah. I remember when All This Was Trees mural got cut out of the wall and sold off. Someone tried to take Diamond Girl, too.
Raises big questions about who owns street art, doesn't it? Should it be preserved, sold, left alone?
Exactly. Huge ethical debates around that Detroit stuff.
Then Boston got Follow Your Dreams. And he did a load of work in L.A. around the Oscars.
Right. Used that media spotlight when the film was nominated. Even though it didn't win, he made his presence felt.
And after the Oscars, work popped up in Wes and Supermare. Then, The Simpsons.
Oh, the couch gag. That was intense. The dark depiction of overseas animation sweatshops.
Caused a massive controversy, but reached a huge mainstream audience with a really pointed message about labor.
Super effective way to use that platform.
2011, he did that print about the Tesco controversy in Bristol and the Cardinal Sin bust at the Walker Art Gallery.
Yeah, the bust with the face pixelated directly addressing the Catholic Church abuse scandal. Never shies away from tough subjects.
Showing art confronting these really difficult societal problems.
Absolutely.
More destruction in 2012. The parachuting rat in Melbourne got painted over accidentally. And the Olympic pieces he put online but didn't say where they were.
Always keeping people guessing. Then 2013, the slave labor saga.
Right, cut off a wall in Wood Green, London.
Yeah.
Shows up at auction in Miami.
Huge local anger. The community felt robbed. It got pulled from the U.S. auction, then sold later in London. Massive controversy about ownership and ethics again.
And then the New York residency, better out than in. A whole month of pieces popping up.
That was ambitious. A new piece almost every day, got huge attention, but also backlash from some local NYC street artists. Even Charlie Brooker made fun of it.
Show the tensions within the scene, maybe?
Yeah, territoriality, different views on what street art should be. It was a bold experiment, though.
The pop-up stall selling canvases for $60 was genius, though.
Classic Banksy prank. People walked past, then found out later they were worth hundreds of thousands. A direct jab at the art market's absurdity.
And Mayor Bloomberg saying graffiti isn't art, just added fuel to the fire.
Perfect contrast. The establishment dismissing it while the public is fascinated sums up the whole street art struggle.
And so much happened during that month. The Ronald McDonald shoe shine sculpture, the slaughterhouse truck full of crying stuffed animals.
The Dumbo video, the painting donated to a charity shop that sold for over $600,000. Even a rejected New York Times opinion piece.
But loads of it got tagged over, removed, stolen.
Yeah, it really highlighted how temporary street art can be. Here today, gone tomorrow.
2015, he released that video from Gaza.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Yeah, documenting the trip, the artworks he made there, the kitten, the swing on the watchtower, and his statement calling it an open-air prison. Very direct.
Showing solidarity, drawing attention to the human cost.
Consistently.
Then Dismaland, the amusement park in Weston-super-Mare.
That was brilliant. A satirical takedown of theme parks and, well, modern life. Darkly funny, thought-provoking. Only temporary, though.
And later that year, the Calais murals near the refugee camp.
Yeah.
The Steve Jobs as a migrant piece.
Right, tackling the refugee crisis, immigration debates, very timely, very poignant.
2017, the Wall-Off Hotel opened in Bethlehem. Still going, right?
Yep. A functioning hotel right by the separation wall, full of his art, a unique form of long-term artistic activism, blends art, tourism, politics.
Incredible project. Then back to New York in 2018, but the rat race piece got removed super quick.
Yeah, the city is quick off the mark sometimes, but then Sotheby's. Love is in the bin.
The shredding, unbelievable. Right after the hammer fell for over £1 million.
The whole world watched. Turned an auction into performance art. Instant commentary on value, commodification. Genius.
And the buyer still bought it.
Yeah.
Retitled, authenticated as shredded.
And then resold a few years later for an absolutely astronomical sum, like nearly 19 million pounds. Just insane. Shows the madness of the market he critiques.
His video explaining the built-in shredder was the icing on the cake, misquoting Picasso about destruction and creation.
Masterful disruption forced everyone to talk about what art and value even mean.
Then Season's Greetings in Port Talbot, Wales. The pollution theme.
Yeah, the kid tasting snow that's actually ash from the steelworks really resonated with the local community. They tried so hard to protect it.
Show the local impact his work can have. It ended up moving to a gallery, right?
Yeah, for preservation. Became a real focal point for the town.
The gross domestic product shop in Croydon in 2019. That was just weird. A shop you couldn't enter.
It was all about a trademark dispute with a greeting card company, Full Color Black. He had to prove he was using the trademark, so he set up a shop selling merchandise online. A very Banksy solution to a legal problem.
But it didn't quite work legally, did it? The EU ruling.
Nope. The EU Intellectual Property Office ruled against him for the flower thrower trademark in 2020, said he filed in bad faith, partly because he's anonymous, shows the limits of the law for someone like him.
The system struggles with anonymity, but his work still sells. Devolved Parliament, the Chimps in Parliament painting.
Sold for nearly 10 million pounds in 2019. His Instagram comment was just, record price for a Banksy painting. Shame I didn't still own it. Typical.
Capturing the political chaos, making millions, staying ironic.
That's the pattern.
2020, the Valentine's mural in Bristol got defaced quickly. But then Painting for Saints, or Game Changer.
The one he gave to the hospital in Southampton during the pandemic. The boy playing with a nurse superhero doll.
So moving. And then it sold for a record amount for NHS charities.
Over 16 million pounds. Showed the huge positive impact his art can have, financially and emotionally.
Then Reading Prison 2021.
Yeah.
The escaping prisoner looking like Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, sparked lots of speculation. And the great British spraycation pieces in East Anglia that summer kept everyone guessing.
And the piece in the Outlaws TV show that Christopher Walken painted over.
That was surreal. Life imitating art, imitating something.
2022, the murals in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Very direct response to the war.
Yeah, the Putin judo throw image even became a postage stamp there. Shows his willingness to engage immediately with major global events.
But the trademark issues continued. The EU rejected the flower thrower again, quoting his own copyright is for losers line against him.
The irony. His own anti-establishment words used by the establishment against him. You couldn't make it up.
Most recently, the St. Patrick's Day piece in Finsbury Park 2024. The green paint.
Matching the council's green and the little figure with the pressure washer. Jeremy Corbyn even visited. Experts reckoned it wouldn't be worth much to sell because it's so specific to that tree, that place.
Context is everything. And those black silhouette animals in London last summer, no comment from him.
Just keeps adding to the mystery. And now there's this tribunal coming up next year, February 2025, UK Intellectual Property Office.
So legal stuff isn't over. Maybe Banksy or a rep will have to show up.
Seems likely someone representing him will. It's this ongoing clash between his anonymity and the legal world. Fascinating to watch.
Beyond those big moments, there are so many other little interventions, right? The zoo stuff, sneaking art into museums.
Oh, yeah, early on, putting messages in the penguin enclosure, the elephant enclosure at London Zoo, placing his own artifacts like Banksy's Miletus ratus, a stenciled rat in the Natural History Museum.
And sneaking his own paintings into the Tate, the Met, the Brooklyn Museum.
It was pure infiltration,
Yeah.
challenging the authority of those institutions, asking who decides what's art and where it belongs. Playful but pointed.
The cave painting in the British Museum, that stayed up for days, didn't it?
It did. And the West Bank barrier paintings, again, the Nickelodeon station IDs he designed, the crumpled red phone box sculpture in Soho.
That phone box just appeared one day, then disappeared.
Yeah.
And the well-hung lover mural in Bristol, the naked guy hanging from the window, that caused a big debate.
Yeah, the council actually held a public vote on whether to keep it. It stayed, but got defaced later. Shows the public connection people feel.
Even altering hundreds of Paris Hilton CDs and putting them in record shops, that's targeting celebrity culture.
Exactly. He goes after high art, politics, consumerism, celebrity, uses lots of different tactics.
The Guantanamo Bay detainee doll he put on the ride at Disneyland.
That was incredibly bold. Smuggled it in, placed it right in the middle of the happiest place on earth, a stark political statement.
The Neighborhood Watch stickers, the Blur album cover, that wall in Portobello Road where another artist painted Banksy's name.
It all adds up. Different ways of getting messages out, playing with his own identity, blurring lines.
The police officer with the balloon dog in Toronto, glad that one got preserved. The Olympic pieces in 2012, like the athlete throwing a missile, very pointed.
Yeah, using the context of the games for critique.
And Spy Booth near GCHQ in Cheltenham, that disappeared. The pigeon mural in Clacton about migrants, that got removed by the council.
Controversial pieces often have short lifespans, but the painting at the primary school in Bristol with the letter, that was lovely.
Encouraging the kids. Shows a different side. Then the huge Brexit mural in Dover, donating Dreamboat to help refugees. Works like near Bethlehem, the Grin Reaper. The list goes on.
It's a huge body of work, constantly evolving, constantly engaging with the world.
But so much of it gets destroyed. It's almost part of the deal with street art.
It is. Vandalism being painted over, the Melbourne diver, the parachute rat, gorilla in a pink mask in Bristol, gone.
Many of the New York Better Out Than In pieces got tagged over, sometimes by other artists like Omar NYC.
Yeah, rivalries or just the nature of the street. Even Praying Boy in Utah got vandalized, though thankfully restored later. It's vulnerable stuff.
So, technique. Stencils. We assume computers are involved now, for the detail.
Seems likely for the photographic quality stuff, but the core idea came from needing to be quick. He talks about it in Wall and Peace, getting caught doing freehand, seeing the lorry stencil.
And he just called it quick in that old interview. Speed is key.
Essential when you're working illegally.
And the influence is 3D, Blek Larad. Clear connections there.
Definitely part of that lineage. But he took stenciling and made it his own signature style, fused it with those very contemporary messages.
That visual language is so strong. The rats, apes, police, kids, combined with the slogans, instantly Banksy.
The way he puts them together creates the impact, the humor, the shock, the critique.
Even if some in the street art world debate the legitimacy of stencils versus freehand.
He's undoubtedly made it a massively powerful and recognized form. And then the shredding. That's technique as performance art.
Totally unique. Breaking the mold, literally.
Right. And those recently found early murals, the non-stencil stuff from the youth club.
Shows he experimented, evolved, wasn't always the Banksy we know now.
Exactly. Offers a glimpse into that early development.
So what drives it all? The politics, the social commentary? He called graffiti revenge for the underclass.
Yeah, challenge your power. The themes are consistent. Anti-war, anti-consumerism, anti-authority, but also touches on deeper things like nihilism, existentialism.
Critiquing greed, poverty, hypocrisy, despair, absurdity, the stuff of modern life, really.
Hits on universal feelings. Even his jokes, like the list of people who should be shot or being too depressed to finish his pie, it's dark humor commenting on the state of the world.
And the environmental critiques, like
Mhm.
show me the Monet with the shopping trolleys or reworking Constable's hay wain.
Pointed commentary on business impact. And then show me the Monet sells for millions. Again, that contradiction.
The free print offer for voting against the Tories in 2017, that was direct political action.
Almost too direct for the Electoral Commission. Had to cancel it. And even the pandemic piece in his bathroom art reflecting the immediate moment.
Always engaging, always pushing boundaries.
Blurring art and activism constantly.
And he does put his money where his mouth is, with the philanthropy.
Significant amounts raised. Donating civilian drone strike for anti-arms trade charities, raffling Dreamboat for refugees, Greenpeace work.
Supporting local Bristol causes, too, like youth clubs, homeless charities. And the long-term support for Palestinians with the Waldorf Hotel selling the triptych for the Bethlehem Hospital.
Yeah, the Mediterranean Sea View piece, plus Game Changer raising millions for the NHS, funding the Louise Michel refugee rescue boat. It's substantial activism.
Shows a real commitment beyond just making statements.
Definitely seems to be a core part of his practice, using the platform for tangible good.
Let's quickly mention the books, too. Banging Your Head Against a Brick Wall, Existentialism, cut it out.
The early ones were self-published booklets, raw, direct.
Give you a real sense of his early voice.
Then Pictures of Walls was interesting, curating other graffiti artists' work. Shows that community connection.
And Wall and Peace brought it all together for a mass audience.
Mhm.
Compiled the earlier stuff, edited it.
Yeah, you can almost track his evolution through the books. The tone changes slightly, becomes a bit more polished maybe as the audience grew.
So wrapping up. Banksy.
Mm-hmm.
Anonymous, satirical, political, iconic stencils. Huge impact.
That mix of humor, critique, and mystery is just magnetic.
Keeps us all guessing, keeps us looking. So as you think about all this, here's a final thought. In today's world, obsessed with celebrity, constant online presence, what's the power of anonymous art?
Especially with things like that upcoming tribunal. We might get clues about the operation, but probably not the person.
So what does that anonymity do for the message? What does it add to Banksy's power and enduring appeal? Something to chew on.